today's golf lesson, I want to talk you through the lesson I gave just 2 days ago to one of my students, Todd, and that's helped him hit the ball so much straighter than he was before. And it was a very simple change in ball position, which I'm going to explain to you how that can help and how that can give you a lot more accuracy in just making sure you've got the correct ball position with the correct club. Now, a question I get so often in lessons is, where should my ball position be? Should it change with each club? I understand this sort of maybe moves forward for a driver, but how much, and so on. So a kind of rule of thumb I would like a lot of you to go with is, if you can think about pitch and wedge, 9-iron, 8-iron, and all of your wedges as well, I'd like those to be right in the center of your stance. And then as you start to move up in ball position, we just want to start to see half a rotation per club until we end up with the driver up just inside our lead foot. So just a very simple sort of explanation on that, but some players do like to play with sort of one single ball position, some like to move it about, but I am more interested in letting you understand how that affects the golf swing and how that affects our impact with the golf ball. So as we can see here, if I just illustrate in Todd's setup, I put a red circle which is going to kind of represent his swing arc, and then I've drawn a green line straight through the middle of that circle. We can see how much further back on the left the ball position is in Todd's swing, and you'll really start to see the effect that this now has. So we were talking on the left about him swinging quite a lot from in to out, so more towards the 10 degrees in to out at times. I think we recorded a 12 degree in to out swing path at one point, and if I just play this video through, what we see is Todd slides onto that green line. He has a little bit of movement to the left, so that green line now kind of goes through his belt buckle, and we can see how early in the arc Todd's striking that golf ball, and that would suggest that, as we've already spoke about, if you hit the ball earlier in that swing arc, you are more likely to be quite a lot from in to out. So Todd was having to really flip that club face to turn it back to target, but he was missing target quite often. And if we just leave that there and come to the video on the right now, and we see this swing instead, again he slides into that green line, but now as he's making a point of contact with the ball, it is much closer to the bottom of that arc, and that's why we now see a much more neutral swing path, because anything that is down here in the center is going to have a much more neutral swing path than anything that is here and striking earlier on. So that ball position we can see has a massive effect on his swing path, therefore his consistency and his direction. So as we can see there on Todd's swing, he started with the golf ball very far back in his stance, and I want you to just look from this sort of face-on view and understand how this hoop and this bit of tape, if I just move that golf ball out the way, you can see that bit of brown tape there, and if we move that about, you can then start to understand how that can change the direction in which you're going to hit the golf ball. And Todd started 9 degrees in to out, and when you're swinging from in to out by 9 degrees, you're either going to sort of push the golf ball out to the right, or you're going to have to really close your club face and hit a big draw, and that'll sometimes turn into a hook. And that's what we've seen with Todd. We've seen some blocks out to the right, we've seen some lovely draws back onto the target, and we've seen some over sort of draws and turning into hooks which were missing the target left. And that's a dispersion that when you're on the golf course can just strike fear into any golfer, because you're standing over your golf shot with an approach and you think, I don't know where this ball is going. And we've all been in that situation before where we don't know where the ball's going, and hopefully we've all been in the position where we do know where the ball's going. And if you've never been there, hopefully this can help you. So taking this brown tape as our point of interest, and that's going to be where the center of our arc or the bottom of our arc is, because understanding that this hoop would be sort of up on a plane, so our golf club is coming downwards as it's also moving around us. But if we just lay it on the floor for visual effect, basically that tape is going to represent where we kind of want the golf ball to be. And if I start to move that ball position back, you can now see that that ball is much earlier in the swing arc, and that means, as we've seen from Todd, is that golf club is still traveling out to the right of the target rather than getting back to square. So what we said is, Todd, we need to just change that ball position a little bit and see how that affects things. And he's got a good golf swing, he's a good golfer, he's a single figure handicapper, and we don't want to make big changes all the time. We want to just get an understanding for how small things can change. So as we brought that ball position now a little bit more around, and with his 7-iron put it slightly forward in his stance, you can now see that that golf club is making its way around from the inside. It gets to the center of the swing arc, and now we are striking the golf ball when it's in the center of the arc, and that's going to change the club path dramatically. And like I said, what we've seen with Todd is the club path change from 9 degrees to 3 degrees just by changing this ball position. So a really simple setup for you. What I would like you to do is you maybe put a hula hoop down, or even just a chalk arced line. You can see on the driving range mat here, on each edge there's an arced line, and that can give us a good representation as well of where the golf club is in our golf swing. But really good way of doing this is give yourself an arc of some sort, whether it's a chalk line on the mat, or it's the edge of the mat, or it's a hoop. And what we want to start to do is just manipulate the ball position, and I'm just going to shuffle over to my right and just start to see how the golf club is working around and where it would come into contact with the ball. I'm going to start moving over to the left and again see where that's going to come into the ball. And you can now see from that camera how differently this golf club is approaching the golf ball. Now, if I set up with a ball right in the middle of my feet and I make a good backswing, but then the next move I make is to shift my weight to the left, I've got to understand that now that golf club is a golf ball, sorry, is a little bit earlier in my arc. So you can see the direction of that club is swinging from in to out too heavily. So that's going to make me react with the club face and maybe try and turn it back to the left or block it out to the right. So that's why with these longer irons we place the ball just a little further forward in our stance. So you can see now that this stick is closer to my left foot than it is my right foot. And now as I'm setting up, we've got that tape there on line with the ball, and I'm just trying to make a very slow swing and start to see now how this golf club is swinging over the golf ball, and I can see that that is quite neutral. That's a good arc, rather than if I move further this way, that golf club's already started to turn left, and that's going to cause a few problems. And if I move too far to my left, that golf club is moving out to the right, and it's going to cause a few problems. And I quite like the idea of just practicing with something on an arc and with an alignment stick in the middle of our feet to make sure that we set up the same every time, make sure I can see that golf club coming through on a neutral arc, and then just swing away from there. Now straight away I had a really good visual of what I was trying to do. I wasn't overly focused on maybe where I'm trying to get the golf ball to go just yet, but I am overly focused on getting this golf club to swing on the correct arc. And something that I suggest to people I'm teaching is hit some bad ones as well. So I would want you to maybe move this setup over here, get yourself more to where Todd was at the start of the lesson, and now I've got that ball back in this arc, and I can start to see that this club comes on the inside much sooner, and it's still got some moving outside to do before it starts to turn the corner left, and I'll play a shot from there. And it didn't quite feel as easy, and on that occasion I've blocked it down the right hand side, so I pushed that about 20 yards right, but it definitely didn't feel as comfortable. So I might just hit a couple of shots from there, and I know this is wrong, I know it's not necessarily going to suit the shot I'm trying to hit, and again my strike suffers, so it doesn't feel as good from there. I feel like I've really got to manipulate things. And then we're going to move this setup over here, so we take the brown tape and the ball position over this side, and I'm going to put the golf ball now what would be really far forward in my stance with a 7-iron, so I feel like I've got to reach for it. And again, I'm going to try and make some golf swing, but I can feel now that that club's already trying to exit maybe a bit too far left when it comes into impact. Now that's a good strike, I've hit that really well, but I can see from the ball flight that there was quite a large turn to the left. I played sort of a big fade there. It started 20, 25 yards left of target and faded back on, so a good result, a good outcome. But I'm now starting in my practice to see the difference in ball flight. When I change this ball position, I'm going to make that same swing again. And there's the bad one, so it had the same ball flight characteristic. It curved off to the right, but on that occasion it started right as well. So when it starts right and moves right, it's always moving away from the target. And then I'll just come back to a more neutral setup. So I'll bring this hoop back into the middle, alignment stick back to the middle as well, and see if I can now feel a bit more neutral about things. Because if we practice the wrong stuff at the same time as we're practicing the right stuff, we'll start to get a good feeling for what is right and wrong, and you can make adjustments on the golf course. So you can see now I'm just a little bit biased to my right hand side. I can feel that golf club coming around on the correct arc, and I will make a swing from there. Now that again feels a lot better. It didn't feel like I was fighting against anything. It felt like the club was moving more naturally around my body on the arc, rather than me trying to change things or reach for the ball or anything like that. So if you, like Todd, see some big moving ball flights and you want to just tighten those things up a little bit, maybe checking your ball position or understanding your ball position is a really good thing for you to do. And if you want to come in for a lesson like Todd did and you want to get more of an understanding and diagnosis for your own swing, then there's a link in the bio below, which is going to give you a chance to come and have a lesson here at Trafford Golf Centre. And if you're not so local and you feel like you want some of the videos like this more personal to you, I'm also on a platform called Skillist, which gives us the chance to do online lessons, and I can give you a full swing analysis and then send you a video just like this where I'm talking to you direct about your golf swing. So if it is this that you're doing incorrectly, we can talk about that, but it might be multiple other things. So check the description below, go and click some of the links, have a look around my website, my profile, and get in touch if you need help in your golf swing, and I'll see you again in the next lesson.